Thank you, Mark, and a big hello from London. An interesting and in some ways some disappointing and unsatisfactory series of weekly patterns seen at the end of last week. In the currencies, we had a weekly key reversal down last week in the US dollar against the South African rand, and this has seen a suitable follow-on lower this week, making new lows here not seen since late September last year. Similarly, in the US dollar Nigerian Naira 1 month NDF, we saw a weekly key reversal down last week. What is more, it was a rare compound weekly key reversal down, in that we made a larger weekly key reversal down last week, larger than the weekly key reversal down seen here 2 weeks ago. This has seen the beginnings of a follow-on lower this week, with new lows, ones not seen since early February. However, this move lower is now running into some support, specifically from the September 2023 to date uptrend, currently at 1480.80. We also had a weekly key reversal down in LME 3-month lead last week, and we started to have the beginnings of a follow-on lower this week. But it has been somewhat tempered today, as the market has gotten caught by the support from the gold long moving average, currently at 1988. However, we also have resistance above in a thin band between 2001 to 2003. It all goes towards the idea of the action since August becoming a rectangle pattern. The final weekly pattern pointing lower on the charts I cover was a weekly key reversal down last week in the Dalian iron ore futures, and this has seen a more than suitable follow-on lower this week already. However, please be aware of the flatlining gold long moving average below, currently at 785.90, and the lower but slowly rising medium moving average, currently 779.40, as these have in the past, now especially the gold long moving average in August and early September, these have acted as supports. Moving now to last week's weekly bullish patterns, and this is where some of those earlier mentioned disappointing and unsatisfactory series of weekly patterns live. Not so to start with though, as in the currencies we had a weekly key reversal up in US dollar Colombian peso, and this has seen a suitable follow-on higher this week. However, in the US dollar Macedonian DNR, we had a weekly key reversal up last week, which has not seen any move higher this week, but instead a pullback within last week's range. Then we come to the really disappointing ones, and they are all in the energy complex. In the US, the complete crack spread from NYMEX, WTI crude oil futures through to heating oil futures and RBOB futures all had weekly key reversals up last week, and all of them have seen a strong reactionary moves lower this week. I single out WTI crude oil futures and RBOB futures especially, as these have now this week pushed down below the lows of last week. Over in the UK, we likewise had weekly key reversals up last week in both ICE Brent crude oil futures and gas oil futures. Yet both have seen reactionary moves lower this week, with Brent crude oil futures piercing and seemingly developing below the previous week's low. Now, I'd normally finish off there, but yesterday we had the month end for September. And though it's too early to discuss any follow-on moves to the monthly patterns of September, I can still list those monthly patterns that developed and the ones to look out for. So, there were monthly key reversals down in Kiwi dollar against the US dollar, in Chicago wheat futures, though not in any other wheat futures, whether in the US or in Europe. And interestingly, a monthly key reversal down in the sugar white premium spread. Now that last one will be one to watch, as there's a possible large multi-month diamond pattern developing there. Finally, we had monthly key reversals up in the US dollar Korean won and the Saudi TDW main stock index. As always, I'm happy to answer any direct questions of anyone who is interested. And with that, I'll finish this section from London. I hope that you found these comments useful.
Thank you for listening and watching this broadcast. This weekly broadcast gives the essential market patterns and consequences. Please be aware of the risk disclaimer posted both at the front and at the back of this broadcast. The copyright is Eddie Tofpik and ADM Investor Service International Limited. And here comes the final important bit.